In this video, we're going to look at some trigonometric functions, and in particular, we're going to determine the exact values of those trig questions. The first one is sine of 11 pi over 6. Begin with a sketch. Here's my x-axis and my y-axis. 11 pi over 6. Different ways you can think about it, but primarily you want to make sure you know what quadrant it's in. One way to do that is to remember pi over 6 is 30 degrees, and 11 times 30 degrees is 330. I'm going to be in quadrant 4. Other ways to convert it, you could also know that this is really close to 2 pi, because 2 pi would be 12 over 6 pi. We're really close, so we're in quadrant 4. So there's our terminal arm. There's our somewhat shady initial arm. I'm going to make this one shady too so it matches. Draw my angle around here. That's 11 pi over 6. So I want to study the related acute angle for this particular rotation, which I called x. But I'm going to easily determine what related acute angle is here by simply saying, look, if it's 360 degrees, or in radians, 2 pi all the way around here, well, remember, 2 pi, if you're making it out of 6, would be the same as 12 pi over 6. I just times top and bottom here. 2 over 1 is the same as 12 over 6 pi. So if it's 12 pi over 6 all the way around, then what's the angle left in here? This is 12 all the way around and 11 to get there. There's only pi over 6 left. So I know that the angle in here is pi over 6. And furthermore, I know what sine of pi over 6 is, because if I look at my special triangle that has pi over 6, this is pi over 6, that's the small angle, so this is the small side. Pi over 3, that's 60 degrees, the big angle, so this is root 3, and this side is 2. Looking at my special triangle, what's sine of pi over 6? That's opposite, 1, over hypotenuse, 2. So I know the sine pi over 6 is 1 over 2. So I'm almost done. The only thing left to check is the cast rule, which will tell me what 11 pi over 6 is. I know it's going to be something like a half, but I got to check what quadrant I'm in, which, as you remember, is quadrant 4. And in quadrant 4, only cosine is positive, which means the value of sine 11 pi over 6 is the value of sine pi over 6, but made negative because we're in quadrant 4. Another kind of question is when it asks you to find theta, and it tells you some fraction of what theta is. We always begin with a sketch. Here's my y-axis. There's my somewhat diagonal x-axis. Not so good. And here's my initial arm. Where's cosine negative? I have to ask myself for this kind of question. 2 places, not the A or C, that's where it's positive. So cosine is negative either in quadrant 2 or in quadrant 3. I'm going to call this rotation theta 1, and I'm going to call this rotation theta 2. And the little angle inside the triangle here, draw a little triangle, dotted lines, these little angles here are my related acute angles. So once I've drawn my sketch, I want to solve those little triangle related acute angles. I want to know what's the angle right inside here. To solve that, I just replace theta with x and use the same ratio, but it's positive version, because triangles don't have negative numbers in them, they have positive sides. So I can solve for this x if I solve for cos x equals root 3 over 2. And that's easy to do because, once again, my special triangle. I go back to my special triangle and I say, how do I get root 3 and 2 as my adjacent over hypotenuse? Well, if I pick pi over 3, root 3 would be opposite. That's no good. It's going to be pi over 6, because pi over 6 has adjacent, root 3, and hypotenuse is 2. In other words, x is pi over 6. And if you're not convinced about that, you could check on your calculator and see what's the cos of brackets pi divided by 6, and sure enough you get 0.866, which is the same as, remember that 0.866, root 3 divided by 2, 0.866. So we've got the right number. That is a rotation of about 30 degrees, or pi over, exactly 30 degrees, pi over 6 gives us root 3 over 2. So now we just figure out what our rotations are based on the quadrant we're in. In quadrant 2, it's like rotating all 180 degrees, or all pi around, and coming back x. So do a full pi rotation, which is half a circle, but come back x. So it's just pi, take away pi over 6. Well, common denominator, how do you get pi out of 6? Times top and bottom by 6. And you just get 5 pi out of 6. And you can jump right from, say, this line right to the last line if this calculation can be done in your head, which eventually I hope it will. In quadrant 2, same idea, except for theta 2, we rotate all the way to 180 and then go a little bit x more. So we're doing pi plus x, which is pi plus pi over 6. And we know pi is just 6 pi over 6. So when we add on pi over 6, we get 7 pi over 6. In other words, the two theta that solve this equation are 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. And if you sub them back into this equation, you'll get negative root 3 over 2.